Hello, Kamini Patel.
Hi,
Welcome to the Red
Angie.
Couch.
How are you today?
I'm really good after summer.
Keeping
And
yourself cool, right?
being back at work, yeah. Trying. It's hard because I live upstairs, like on the top floor, and we don't have any air conditioning in this country, so
Yeah.
it gets kind of hot in the afternoon. So I work a summer schedule, which means I stop at about 3 o'clock.
And you get
So
up at 6 in the morning. Don't tell me you're an
Kamini, you're somebody that I've known for more than a year, but I think we interacted also before the last time when we organized a workshop together. Maybe to get a bit warmed up, you want to tell us something that I don't know about you?
well. So actually, I've been in Switzerland before I moved here. It's actually quite. I was on a ski holiday in Italy, in Livigno, and it was a package holiday from. I was based in the UK in my 20s, and I ended up having a ski accident in Livigno,
Oh
and
no.
they decided that, and the guide, the holiday guide, took me to a Swiss clinic in Livigno, and then I got shipped to Switzerland for 2 weeks. And in those days we didn't have a mobile phone or anything, so nobody knew where I was. But I was in this exceptional clinic, like getting the best treatment. And it was really interesting because I used to work for the health service at that time. So when I got shipped back to the UK after 2 weeks in Switzerland, it was a hospital in St. Moritz, and the plaster cast. So this was in the 90s. Was made out of Scotch cast with and they'd let your knee flex 15 degrees, which is what you need for walking. And so all the orthopedic surgeons thought I was like something very novel. So I got really treated quite well, even in the UK at that time. And so that's a thing you didn't know about me, that I've been to Switzerland before I've been to Switzerland, if you see what I mean.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was quite an experience. After 6 weeks, I was walking okay, and yeah,
This
get
is
always get travel insurance for your holidays. That's what I say.
this is where your love for Switzerland started. Wonderful.
Exactly. And funnily enough, I met, they put me in a private room and then they put me in a ward. And I was thinking, oh my God. And I met all these other people who had ski injuries and we all became quite good friends.
Uh-huh. That's great. Are you still
Yeah.
in touch with them?
Not as much, but, in those days, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that's a fun fact you didn't know about me, right? That I've been to
No.
Switzerland before I moved here a few years ago.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know that I was here already in 1997 as an intern,
Oh,
which is where my love for Zurich began. And now it's all coming full circle with me getting the citizenship hopefully soon.
right.
Can you tell us a bit more about why you do what you do?
Yeah, so I was born in Kenya, in East Africa,
Uh-huh.
of Indian origin. Parents were both educators, so I knew very early on. Well, father was a university lecturer in Kenya. Mother was a primary school teacher, so I knew very early on that I did not want to be an educator or a teacher. Although now I look back and think, oh, maybe that would have been quite a good thing. So anyway, and as a British citizen, lived in the UK, primary, secondary school, and university, and I worked in the health service initially, and at that time, the National Health Service went through this transition from a public to these self-governing trusts, and I was asked to write a business plan, and I had
Mhm.
no idea how to do that. I wrote something, of course, and then decided to go off and do an MBA at Manchester Business School. And that was like my passport to travel. Really, I love travel anyway, and never went back to the public sector. Just I was offered this position and moved to Brussels, led marketing in Brussels. Moved to Australia, led marketing for it used to be called Fleetguard Inc.,
Uh-huh.
a subsidiary of Cummins Inc., the company, the diesel manufacturer of engines, and we produce filters. And yeah, so from there, I became the vice president of marketing. And so from a health service job with not a lot of money to actually, having quite a fulfilled life, traveling, meeting people in a very diverse environment. Cummins Inc. is a highly diverse employee workforce there. So it was really amazing to work with people from all sorts of walks of life, as well as different countries. And then, I came back to, do you want me to still go on?
I was going to ask you another question.
Yeah.
And that basically is the question, how you got to where you are today. And I think it would be interesting also for our viewers in the global mobility space to understand how you ended up in Switzerland.
Yes, yeah. So I was always the leading spouse. My husband was always following me. And then when I came back to Brussels after I left Cummins, I was working for a small company called Power Systems Research. Again, kind of transition to a smaller organization. But eventually we decided all this weekend commute was, we'd had enough. So it was my turn to be trailing spouse. So I moved here.
All right. So you were initially the expat.
The expat,
And
exactly.
your spouse would sort of come along with you.
Yes.
And then you changed roles. All right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was being the leading expat, actually talking about mobility, they used to do all this sort of cross-cultural training.
Yeah.
And when I went to the US, they said, you need to do this training. And I was thinking, well, I've been traveling to the US all this time. And, I watch American films. I mean, I've got friends who are Americans, half the family are Americans. But it was actually quite interesting to do the training and try and understand how decisions are made by Europeans versus in the US. You basically, from an extreme perspective versus from the middle size. The Europeans are always middle of the road, whereas in the US, it's, you make decisions yes or no quite quickly. And so it was quite interesting to learn about that. As one of the things I learned, yes.
That's
Apart from the fact that I was in
good
Nashville,
to hear.
Tennessee.
It's good to hear, Kamini, because I'm really sad about the fact that we hardly do any intercultural trainings anymore. It's basically something many companies do not feel is necessary anymore in the modern world. When I started in the field back in the 90s, we used to send managers and their spouses to trainings for Asia. I was responsible for Asia Pacific. We used to send them to a 1 week course to prepare
Wow.
for Singapore or India or, the countries we would send, like Sri Lanka or countries we would send them to. It was a 1 week preparation. Can you imagine that? And then, it got reduced to one day or 2 days. And then, everything turned into tools. And now it's like, oh, intercultural training? Who needs that?
Yeah. And really, it's very important in many ways, because somebody like me at that time had been traveling, we ran global projects, but living there and working in that environment was actually very, very beneficial.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you're by profession, I would say business developer, marketer. Why we connected originally was through the Spooglers network, which is
That's
the
right.
house network of Google. And maybe you could tell us a bit more about, how you became engaged in the community, what you're actually doing for the spouses, and how this works. Because honestly, I think it's an example that other companies should also consider. At
Yeah, yeah.
least.
I agree. I agree. Actually, I kind of fell into it because when I moved here, I had time. I moved here with a kind of a blank page, thinking about doing some work back in Belgium, but not still maintaining a few links, but not really. So then I had some time, and I was looking at what volunteering. There was an organization called IDCN where Google was actually a member of, International Dual Career Network. So we did a bit of volunteering for them, but then eventually Google decided to stop having that relationship. So we needed somebody for the spouses who would come here, like myself, who wanted support. And we set this, it was already kind of set up, but not formalized. We have the spouses network of around 1,700 in Zurich, which is quite significant. When I came, it was half that.
Wow,
Yeah,
amazing.
in the years, it's up to that. And out of that, half of that network is folks that want to look for either career development, progression, or looking for a job. And so we support each other. We've got 3 different sub teams. Although over the years, even like during COVID, we had some other ones as well. But the main focus is helping folks to kind of adjust to improving their CV, etc. here. So we have a lot of contacts here, like yourselves, who come and talk to us about, providing that expertise. Then we have an event sub team, which focuses actually on all hot topics related to career development, professional development. And then we have an entrepreneurs team, where spooglers who want to set up their own businesses will liaise with each other. They meet up on a regular basis outside of a Google facility. So we actually work. Google provides just the room for us, nothing else. The rest is done by us. So we have a lot since we sort of formalized it after 2017. Whole host of advocates and experts who come and talk to us, provide expertise. We support them, with our voluntary work as well. And it's so fulfilling. You might ask me, why do you give up that time? But it's just like so fulfilling, energizing. You learn yourself, right, from other people's experiences and stories. And it's just grown amazingly. And it's not a formalized Varine or anything. It's just a group of spouses getting together, and we utilize tools that are free for us. And it's amazing, actually, how it's progressed.
I'm still amazed at the sheer number you're talking about, because in my mind it's like 1,000, and I always thought that was a ridiculously high number already.
Yes.
And it's a large pool of people, talented people with several degrees, who are mostly, interested in working in the job market, but also have a hard time, like
Yeah.
everybody else that I work with. So if you're an employer and you're looking for good stuff, contact Kaminis. She might have somebody for you.
Yes,
And
absolutely. And as you say, highly skilled, we do the survey do a survey every year. And the number of folks with a master's degree and above is over 50%.
yeah,
And then anybody lower than a bachelor's degree is like less than 1%. So
yeah,
that tells you, very highly skilled, very diverse, and very across all sectors, not just focused on tech. Because people kind of assume, oh, if your spouse is in tech, you're in tech. I mean, I'm a good example. I'm a marketeer, and so yeah, we have a really good, strong base of members who span across all networks, and from small businesses to large. And I think that's a bigger challenge here, right? Because some of them come in from a corporate environment to to Switzerland and to Zurich. And as we know, I mean, 95% of the businesses are small and medium-sized businesses, so they need to adjust to working in those circumstances as well.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And if you think back, to the time when came to Switzerland first time, and, were a young professional on the outset of her career,
Yeah.
what would you tell a younger person in your shoes? Maybe somebody who's currently considering, oh, I want to move abroad and work from abroad, or I want to become a digital nomad and work from anywhere. What would you tell them? What kind of advice would you give them?
So I think that coming here it is different to working in, say, the US or the UK in the so I think that you need to be able to not be scared about taking risks. The process of looking for employment or looking for career development is similar, but you really need to get out there and be known. So networking is like top of my list, and I can give you some examples. I mean, as soon as I got here, as I mentioned, I was in the IDCN, but I was also, talking to folks locally. And by doing that, I was able to get my first job,
Yeah.
as the MD of a startup, because the the person, the chairman, was looking for somebody with my skill level and wanted somebody, not a non-Swiss, to be running this show. And that's how I got my first job. And I think, even if I think about what I do right today, I've actually been able to get that position by talking to somebody else who I know, because we volunteer together at the cram shop in Zollikerberg. And I was just talking to her about how different it is now post-COVID, and we just chat. And I managed to get this pilot project with a Geneva-based firm, for example. So I think networking, and don't be scared if you feel that you've failed in one area. Just get yourself up, think about, evaluate, reflect, and move on, and always seek expertise. I think if you can go and talk to people locally who've been through the same situation or are experts, you learn a lot. So that would be my tip for any juniors coming in here to Zurich. Juniors, most people are juniors to me nowadays.
Yeah, and I think, networking is generally one of the things that I tell young people to start with right away. There's maybe the thing, why I'm teaching courses on this is because people often understand something else about networking than, how we interpret it and what it is. And I think, it's also important that when you come to a new country like Switzerland, that you first of all understand how it is done here.
Yes.
That it might not be the same as in the country where you come from, and it might not have the same meaning. So, you need to, that's why you need to speak to a coach or an expert to understand, okay, what can I actually do to get my name out there? And, what do I need to do in order to be seen here and to be considered?
I mean, you start from the CV. It's different. If you're going to be applying for a small and medium-sized company, you're going to have your picture on there. You're going to have a few things about your personal profile on there. Those are the very basics, obviously, but getting that the basics right and trying to fit is actually a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what your views are on that.
Yeah. We haven't really talked about LinkedIn. We just did before we started the interview. But when you think about social media, and as a marketer, maybe you have a professional opinion on this one too. What is your preferred social media platform right now?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because I think you have to kind of evolve in terms of whether you're looking for business or looking for solutions. I've used LinkedIn throughout, when it started to today. And when I worked for example, at the INSEAD Business Product Management Executive Program, we actually utilized LinkedIn to acquire a lot of our candidates for the program. And it was very successful. Of course, you may you join it as a premium member to do that, and you're not going to, out of 500 people you contact, you might get 30, but and you get really good quality. You can actually tailor your campaigns pretty well, I think, on LinkedIn. For the Spooglers Professional Network, we have our own LinkedIn group, which is a closed group, and we share a lot of information within that. So, for example, if somebody's running some coaching sessions, or if there's any job opportunities going that we think would fit our members, we share that. So, from that perspective, it's been quite good. And keeping in touch, I think that's been the biggest opportunity for me, because having worked in so many different places, I find LinkedIn is great to keep in touch with all my old friends as well, colleagues as well. So I utilize it more than I probably, when I thought about what you'd asked me, more than I thought I'm doing. I also utilize, for example, locally for Switzerland, Reddit, if because there you can actually find out a lot of stuff that's going on in Zurich, and so from an information gathering, it's pretty nice. Not always on a professional topic, but on a social topic.
Mm-hmm.
And then, keep in touch with over the normal Facebook and all those channels as well. But I think the biggest opportunity also, along with social media, has been all these chats, right? So you use WhatsApp, and the cost of communicating across the globe is just reduced because you're using these channels.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I personally find YouTube very intriguing at the moment. But I'm on LinkedIn like on a hourly basis, so that's sort of my bread and butter at the moment. But I also find YouTube really intriguing, and I'm hoping to use it more in the future.
Yeah. Do you podcast as well?
No, this is my podcast. I'm not gonna move to podcast. I'm just gonna stay here now.
Yeah.
Because I really like it. And it's simple.
Yeah.
So yeah. What about events or other things that are important for you? What would you like to talk about to our audience?
Yeah. So events. Well, I think when we run our events, I mean, if that's what you're thinking, we focus on not just job hunting, but how is the industry trending, for the future,
Mhm.
where is your unique selling proposition? And I think AI is going to be significantly impacting marketeers, for example, and in the next 5 years, certainly. And I think one of the things we have to really think about is, you know, as a marketeer, I would be working with bigger teams to focus on video production, audio production, um, improving the quality, the data part as well, market data gathering. All that is going to have a significant impact. So I think from a marketing perspective, I think, and an events perspective, it's just going to get easier. What we'll have to think about is the ethics around it, and the data privacy. I think those are the two kind of constraints. But certainly from a way the industry is trending, it's going to be an opportunity for all sectors. But I can give more around marketing, and I actually throughout the time, love talking to folks, but learning as well. And more recently, I just took part in an AI marketing training, and I was blown away, blown away how you could leverage some of the tools that are already available. But so in the next 5 years, I think it's going to completely transition to a very different way.
Mm. Yeah, let's see what the future brings.
Yeah. And one of
Regard
the other
that.
things you mentioned this thing about cross-cultural training, etc. One of my Belgian friends, I was talking to him recently, and he's got 3 boys, and he said, so in Belgium they speak French and Flemish and at school, and then English is kind of learned a little bit later. And
Yeah,
he said, all his kids speak English now. And I said, already. And he's a teacher, educator himself. And I said, oh, well, are you teaching him? And he said, no, because of social media, internet, they're conversing with people all around the world. And he said, I was listening to them outside the room, and he was talking in English, and he was like, wow, my son can speak English. And so I think the whole way business operates and understanding of cultures will change. That's the positive part, I think.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can look forward to those developments.
Yeah.
At least something to look forward to. All, the negative news we get all day.
Well, yeah, hopefully, there's enough optimists around to be able to leverage it. I mean, the recent news has been just like dreadful and sometimes depressing because of the way social media can be used to spread fake news.
Yeah,
I think in the UK recently too. But I was really impressed how the rest of the crowd came out the day after and said, we're not putting up with this. So I think that actually that's very positive.
yeah. I'm also really
Yeah,
moved by this.
yeah.
Can we recommend how people can reach you in case they need your support? I know you're currently very busy, but you're also offering marketing consultations. So how can people get in touch with you?
Well, absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. And obviously, if you have any questions about living here, and I mean, I have worked for a number of voluntary organizations, and I always think volunteering is like the first step. If you've got time, go and go do it. And I'll be able to help you with at least my experience around it.
Oh, that's fantastic, Kamini. And it's also good for me to know that, I can direct people your way. So sometimes, people need to hear it from also different angles.
Yeah,
Yeah, volunteering is also a topic I usually recommend for a limited amount of time. especially when it is hard to find a job here, or when there's no work permit, which is becoming more and more of an issue, that spouses here, they come here, but they can't work because they don't have the right to work. So let's keep in touch. I'm glad you came.
Well,
Thank you for
so much.
sharing.
Thank you so
Sorry?
much for inviting me. And well, we'll keep in touch, and I hope I can help some more folks.
Yeah, we will send them all your way.
Thank you. Cheers.
Have a great day, Kamini.
Stay
Bye-bye.
cool. Bye.